Checking right now. That section is, well, it's also a decent chunk, so we'll probably hold off on that for now. All right, I'm going to begin in 5 seconds, God willing. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Seek refuge in God, sin and rejection. Here we go. Noah. The people of Noah disbelieved the messengers. Their brother Noah said to them, "Would you not be righteous? I am an honest messenger to you." Brother Ismail, your mic's hot. "I am an honest messenger to you. You shall reverence God and obey me. I do not ask you for any wage. My wage comes from the Lord of the universe. You shall reverence God and obey me." They said, "How can we believe with you when the worst among us have followed you?" He said, "How do I know what they did? Their judgment rests only with my Lord, if you could perceive. I will never dismiss the believers. I am no more than a clarifying warner." They said, "Unless you refrain, O Noah, you will be stoned." He said, "My Lord, my people have disbelieved me. Grant me victory against them and deliver me and my company of believers." We delivered him and those who accompanied him in the loaded ark. Then we drowned the others. This should be a lesson, but most people are not believers. Most assuredly, your Lord is the Almighty, most merciful. Praise be to God, Lord of the universe. All right. One thing that caught my eye. This is not the only chapter that Noah's people talks about the worst following Noah. I think chapter 11, verse, I want to say 27. Yeah, verse 27. Yeah, let me put the verses in. Oh, they would have me. All right. The leaders who disbelieved among his people said, "We see that you are no more than a human being like us, and we see that the first people to follow you are the worst among us. We see that you do not possess any advantage over us. Indeed, we think you are liars." Um, and then if you go 2 verses later, it says, "Oh, my people, I do not ask you for any money. My wage comes only from God. I am not dismissing those who believed. They will meet their Lord, and he alone will judge them. I see that you are ignorant people. Oh, my people, who can support me against God if I dismiss them? Would you not take heed?" All power belongs to God. "I do not claim that I possess the treasures of God, nor do I know the future, nor do I claim to be an angel. Nor do I say to those despised by your eyes that God will not bestow any blessings upon them. God knows best what is in their innermost thoughts. If I did this, I would be a transgressor." Right. So this is Noah's pretty big on like not dismissing people, at least not the believers, right, or people who claim to be believers with him. Right. So this is very interesting. He says, "I'm not going to say to those just because you hate those guys. I'm not going to say that God will not bestow any blessings upon them." And that he's saying that only God knows what is in their heart. That he can't judge their sincerity. Praise be to God. That's all I have to comment. And the floor is open for everybody, by the way. So if anyone wants to
Yeah.
comment on these verses, go for it.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, brother. Go ahead.
Oh,
These 3
good,
points.
good. That was funny. I was like commenting through this. I didn't realize my mic wasn't working. Hey, I got a question regarding this specific thing. What does it mean the worst? Are we to imply that this is the worst is in the most sinful among them, the most despicable? Like, what is the meaning when it says the worst among us?
I'm assuming you're not asking me, but everyone, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's an open question. 'Cause, I'll tell you, I mean, to me, I don't think that this is implying worse in the, sense of, like, "Oh, these are just, like, despicable, sinful, evil, unrighteous people." Um, my take is that this is how they perceive, like, the lowliest of the people, as if it's like, oh, the peasants, the ones who didn't have, what they considered high status. That's the way I read it, because otherwise, if it's the worst, like the sinfulness, then that just kinda creates other, issues, if that's the implication. So I'm curious what you guys think.
I agree with you, brother, Peter. It is the word in Arabic also. It implies is the worst in ranking also in society. So they have ranks. So the worst is just the lowest of the lows of the people. And I don't know based on what, but usually we use this word when we really want to humiliate someone. We just say you're from that group, the lowest rank in the society.
So I'm gathering
There's
it's people that are just frequently condescended upon, or is it
Yeah,
like just
yeah,
peasants or what?
yeah. Could be. We don't know their society based on what the ranking is. It peasants, and above that it's just like traders, or I don't know, merchants. I don't know what it is, but it is just the lowest in their society. It could be peasants. It could be beggars. We don't know. Homeless. We don't know. But these are the lowest in the society in their ranking. They consider them. They're just nothing comparing to the others.
there's a clue in 1127. It adds a couple more words in this. I'm gonna put it in. Basically, it's they, Ardalana, right? Worst of us, Ba'adina, right? In appearance, and sight. So to me, it's like, yeah, these are people that they, for whatever reason, they look down upon. Because one of the things I've seen people cite this verse in the sense, like, let's say you have someone, they don't have any of the traits of a righteous individual, right? They lie, they cheat, they do all this heinous stuff, and they basically say, hey, according to this verse, we can't judge them. And to me, it's not that, right? It's like these are people who not. It's not a righteous matter that they're being looked down upon. It's just, yeah, in appearance or in status, that they're considered the kind of the lowliest.
But on the other hand, verse 26, 112, and 113 says, how do I know what they did? Right? Their judgment is only with God, right? So it's talking about actions, not appearance here.
It could be. I mean, that's the thing is, if you're saying, hey, they're basically the lowliest, right, in whatever status. Noah's response would still be adequate, or in the sense of saying, how do I know what they used to like, what got them there? Why are they in the status or something? The only reason I say this is because, again, if we say, like, people have the hallmarks of a righteous a monotheist, irrespective if they have the revelation or not, right? Um, but I don't see examples of someone who's just like living a completely unrighteous life being deemed as, oh yeah, they have the hallmarks of a potential submitter.
Could it be like people we see in society today? Maybe they have like I don't know. A lot of people they look at people with lots of tattoos as sort of bottom rung of society, or people that hang out at bars, or people that are have weird hobbies, or they're outcasts in their social circles.
Or people
It,
with a history of, having problems or something, but then but then they kind of like the magicians, they were kind of crooked and all for the pharaoh, but then they saw the miracle and they submitted wholeheartedly and they changed in that moment. So, I think it could be interchangeably appearance, status, and maybe deeds as well.
weren't they very dismissive of the magicians after they converted? Did they say something along the lines of I'm trying to recall. I'm going to see if I can find it. You guys can
We do
continue
have
on.
we do have this thing, this ranking also in our society nowadays also. It is there are some groups in the society they look down upon. Some of them we call them hippies, and they have their own group and they have their own lifestyle, but everybody looks down on them. And but we don't know what they do. And I guess I assume this is probably the same way, that it's just a group of people, they live a lifestyle and the society doesn't respect it for in a way, but it obviously from the verses they don't know what they're doing. Even the messenger doesn't know what they're doing, but they just in a society they don't belong to the rest of the groups.
Those two examples in the biblical account for like lowly people accepting submission. Mary Magdalene being one of them, who was known as a prostitute at that time, and then the tax collector as well, right? So I think it's kind of a culmination of things, right? Like I think everybody here was astray to some degree, and then we saw the truth and God's authority. So, right, like class kind of depicts the tax collector and the prostitute. However, like whatever got you there, it's irrelevant. Once you accept submission, it's no longer deep on that class or those actions.
I put two verses that also use the same term, but it's obviously this one. The context is different, but I do think it kind of might give some insight what it means by worst. The first one is 16 verse 70. It says, God created you and he terminates your lives. He lets some of you live to the, and here it says, the oldest age, only to find out that there's no limit to the knowledge they can acquire. God is omniscient, omnipotent. And the other one is Surah 22, verse 5. It uses the same term. It says, O people, if you have any doubt about resurrection, remember that we created you from dust and subsequently from a tiny drop, which turns into a hanging embryo. Then it becomes a fetus that is given life or deemed lifeless. We thus clarify things for you. We set on the wombs whatever we will for a predetermined period. We then bring you out as infants. Then you reach maturity, while some of you die young. Others live, again here, the worst age, only to find out that no more knowledge can be attained beyond a certain limit. Also, you look at the land that is dead. Then, as soon as we shower it with water, it vibrates with life and grows all kinds of beautiful plants.
Peace. Peace. I think one way of understanding this regarding Noah and his people is look at who is saying this. Look at who is making the statement. It's obviously the people who have power, the people who more or less have social control, the people who define what is success or what is achievement and prosperity, and the people who buttress and uphold all of the beliefs that support their system, that support the status quo, which obviously includes non-belief and idolatry. So any group of people, the farther removed they are from the so-called normies in society, the worse they are. They are the worst among them. As far as the leaders of the people of Noah, they are quote unquote abnormal. So I think to keep it clarify it and simple, we look at who's making the accusation and statement here. The worst here has more to do with a community, and that includes Noah, who are separate from the so-called majority, who do not believe in God, who do not accept that Noah is a prophet of God. And in any society at any time, any group of people who distance themselves from the falsehoods and lies are always described as the worst among us or the abnormal. Thank you. Peace.
Praise God. Those Brother Peter brought all 4 verses that use the root of this word. So really, these are I guess, the 4 verses that we could rely on to maybe discern what God is saying. The worst age. Why does God call it the worst age? By the way, is it we just see the old age to be the worst age, or
I,
is it like
peace
some sort of
again.
extreme? Good, brother.
I think that the worst age, meaning that it's part of the physiological, biological process of aging. As one ages, one experiences more, more
Creeps and
pain,
pain,
more,
turbulence.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, more ailments, more physical conditions. And I think this is what is meant by the worst age. It's not so much worse in a literal sense, but it means that it's that at that age one experiences more ailments and
unpleasantness.
aches and unpleasantness. Right. Thank
Right.
you. Peace. Peace.
God bless you. Peace. I also want to note that a lot of people become more dismissive of those people once they reach that age. Whether you look at nursing homes or you look at the elderly within a household. Um, you have stories of people abandoning the old on top of mountains to showcase how dismissive people are of the elderly. It's not always a pleasant thing to be old, and not just regarding the physiological state, but the world is unkind to old people sometimes. So it being called the worst age, I think, is very fitting. But I think we can connect it. So basically, my understanding is this word, the worst people, is referring to um, we all narrowed it down: social ladder, outcasts in society, the minority that is dismissed by the majority, right? And it could be from all walks of life. But I want you guys to think, God, He's the one who decides which souls go where, right? And so it just so happens that a lot of the times the messengers end up gathering the rabble, right? The outcasts, or the people that are viewed as the worst in society. And this happens more often than not, right? So is this God planning out where the soul should go simply so that it always looks like this, or do believers just often end up being viewed as outcasts or wind up lower on the social ladder? Which of the two do you guys think it is? Like, is it our
Peace.
disposition, or is it the
Peace.
God's planning? Go ahead, brother. Peace.
Here I am. I'm being very verbose today. Uh, we can look at Pharaoh's wife. Clearly, Pharaoh's wife was not the worst in society. In fact, she was an upper class. She was an elitist. She was an elite individual in terms of the pharaonic class, in terms of Egyptians at that time. So it's not so much defined by, well, all of the righteous people or the people that are more receptive to the message are in the lower classes. That clearly is an example in the Quran where that's not the case. It just so happens that many people that are chagrined and mocked in society are considered individuals that are what? That are outcasts, that are abnormal, that are problematic. Something is wrong with them, God knows best. But the point is what? Many of the people that are more receptive to the message of the truth tend not to be in the upper echelon. They do not come from the elitist, wealthiest, and most prosperous. And I don't mean that in a literal sense, but what I'm saying, why? Because many people who are the elitists, the so-called most powerful and prosperous, have also bought into all of the lies and the distortions and the schemes against the truth in order to be considered socially successful. Thank you. Peace.
Praise God.
I'll add something to that. The way that the system is set up is you have to think about it. Who are the ones? So you say, okay, hey, look, we have these positions of power and authority, and anyone who's humble, who realizes like their faults, their shortcomings, is going to be apprehensive to want such responsibility. Right? It's not to say that they can't, but realistically, it's like, yeah, they say, okay, look, I don't want that ring. But it unfortunately it does attract the very people who you don't want having that level of power or authority. And this is always the system. It's the same in societies. It's the same in companies and politics. More often than not, the people get attracted to those positions are very individuals that should be the furthest away from it. But the ones who really should be in those positions are typically the ones who really don't want it.
I think the analogy is um, with being having more wisdom in them, or being uh, not lacking ignorance. I think the analogy is in the Quran where it said, when the responsibility was offered to the heavens and the earth, and the animals and stuff, and they were the intelligent, and they were scared of it, because they knew the implication that this situation will come, having the freedom of choice, and having in a scenario where Satan has its freedom to do certain things and entice people, um, give them more awareness of the situation, where most people, assume this is going to be an easy task.
I wanted to comment on what the two brothers said. I went over a verse during my Fajr recitation, really made me think. Chapter 11, verse 15. "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Those who pursue this worldly life and its material vanities, we will pay them for their works in this life without the least reduction." Basically, the disbelievers, their work does translate into fulfilling what what they desire because they've chosen this life. But for the believers, if God increased the provision for his servants, they would transgress on earth. This is why he sends it precisely measured to whomever he wills. He is fully cognizant and seer of his servants. Now, it's not that the believers' efforts are wasted, but some believers God may withhold from them for their own sake. Whereas the disbelievers, God gives without the least reduction. Right? So God is okay with giving to the disbeliever who has chosen this life over the next. Right? Even though it's only going to increase him in transgressing. And while for the believers, God may withhold them, or the believers themselves, like Brother Peter said, they may say, "I don't want the ring, right? I don't want the power," afraid of what it will cause them. Praise God. Brother Ismail, you said yes. I wonder why it says increased but not decreased. Yeah, so this is because this is like the rich believer is better than the poor believer. The poor believer, if he was given more money, would transgress. That is why God does not, you know, fill his pockets. Does that make sense,
What's
Brother Ismail? Okay.
yeah, an interesting observation is, the delta between Adam and Satan was that when Adam slipped, he felt shame, but Satan didn't. In today's climate, basically, the one who has no shame um, is the one who's going to have the upper hand. Because I think about this, like you see some of these, politicians or news correspondents or people in authority, and they get caught like blatantly lying, like flat out lying to the masses. And any sensible, righteous person would be like, "Oh my God, like I'm so embarrassed, Why would I have done such a flagrant thing?" But the one who has no shame doesn't even bat an eyelash, And to me, that's such a dangerous kind of state of affairs where someone who is, sociopath, who has no shame, has this advantage in society where basically they can get, the most embarrassing, damning things about them, and it doesn't even phase them. Just find that funny.
I have a question.
Let's hear it.
Okay, I can't help noticing that the use of the word brother uh, in multiple verses, and I just don't know. Is it okay to notice this and try to find out why God is using that word specifically? In another verse, when he mentioned Saleh, for example, he said Rasuluhum instead referring Saleh.
So you're talking about like chapters 26 verse 26. Their brother Noah said to them,
Yeah.
"Would you not be righteous?" Right, and then you have another verse where Salah says, their messenger Salah did
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z." I get it. You're asking, what is the significance? Why does God choose brother
Why?
here?
Yeah, he used the word brother in other in also other verses. He used the word brother, but he could have used Rasulahum. Why? What's the significance of using this word instead of Rasuluhum?
They may have been closer. Maybe this constitutes that their village was a lot more close knit, more family based. Could that be possible?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah, so 1150 is one of the examples
So
you were referring to.
we're all brothers in a community if we believe in the same thing.
No, but you can argue we're
it-
all children of Adam and we're brothers in that way too, right?
yeah. So I don't know. Why didn't he say their messenger? They use the word brother in some verses and this one. What is the reason that God chooses the word brother over messenger?
Peace be upon you. God bless you all. The use, I think, in my own understanding, the use of brother is because they, though the person God has chosen as a messenger to deliver is because he is from among them. He chose, God has never chosen a messenger from a different community uh, to a community, to a different community. Like to say, God would choose um, a messenger that is not from Mecca, maybe from Israel, to take that messenger to Mecca to deliver a message. But He would choose from them, from among the community, because they know Him from uh, maybe from childhood, his background, the way he grew up, he lives as a sane person, as a righteous person. And when God chooses from among them, they are to know that yes, God has chosen somebody uh, uh, with great quality to deliver his message. So God would not use messengers here. He would use their brother because he is part of them. And whatever they see that is new from them or from him that comes to them, that is when they would know that, yes, we know this man with these qualities, but he never had this. So this may be a divine revelation from God. God definitely chose him uh, above us to be his messenger. They would definitely come to understand that, yes, he is the messenger, but God has to make them know that he is their brother, somebody they know very well before he was chosen as a messenger. That is my understanding. Thank you.
I actually, I actually like what you said there, brother. Just for those who may not have heard, he's saying that the brother may indicate that he was from them. He was one of them. He was close with them. And it's not just some outside messenger that came in and started telling them what for. Maybe there may have been messengers that did, move from one place to the other. But in these cases, the brother came from with one of them. So it was just someone who's familiar to them, similar to how the Meccans knew Muhammad. Right? Although I guess if he went to Medina, then maybe at that point it would not be their brother, but their messenger or something. But At least for the Meccans, it would be their brother Muhammad, right? Is that the sort of what you're saying, Brother Ibrahim?
Yes, brother. Yes, brother.
Praise God.
God bless.
So we assume in this case that Saleh was not from his own community.
He was, I think, because I posted a verse where it says brother for him as well. Let me see.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
use both of words. So it doesn't mean
I mean, even as their brother, he would still be a messenger. But
yeah.
the case that it doesn't mention brother, then I don't know.
Yeah, the question was, why would God use this word? Is there a significance in that? Should we just
I think the significance was to let you know he's not just a messenger that came from another place. He was one of them. So when it says their brother, now this type of messenger was a messenger that was from from among them, from among their number. He's familiar with them, right? Look at Rashad. Rashad was an immigrant to America, right? He was not. You might not call him one of their brothers, right? He was an immigrant. I may not use the term brother for him. God may not have used a brother for him, right? But for Saleh, Hood, Shuaib, these guys, they were messengers to their own people in the towns that they had grown up in. He was their brother. And so I'm guessing that is the distinction. Go ahead, brother.
Peace, brother. What about the brothers of Lot? Or maybe you mentioned it and I just wasn't paying attention.
Kaum lot. Yeah. Is kaum the same Arabic word that's used in these situations, Mom?
I think they use the word
Kaum lut for
no,
Lut.
is it the people of Lot? Yeah, people of Lot, Qawm. But I think it was also somewhere it was mentioned brother.
Ikhwan lut. Ikhwan lut. What's
Ikhwan,
ikhwan
yeah.
mean?
Ikhwan, yeah, it's
Brethren.
brothers.
They're brethren of Lut. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not sure in that situation, honestly, because Lot traveled with Abraham, right? So technically, wouldn't he be a foreigner to their town?
I don't know. It's just when I get to come across this word, I always just stop and think, why is choosing this word? I mean, but we might not need to dig deep in this anyway.
No, I'm gonna go to hell over this one word right now. All right.
This is Quran study, so don't forget we're
God
dissecting
forgive me.
the
I was just
verses.
making humor to lighten the mood. God forgive me. I reloaded the verses for everyone. Chapter 26, verse 105 through 122. The floor is open for anyone who'd like to comment.
I want to add to this point. If we look at Surah 10, verse 15 to 16, we would hear what Prophet Muhammad said, especially in verse 16. You know, he said, Rabbi, أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك رب أن يحضرون. He said, say, had God will, I would not have decided it to you, nor would you have known anything about it. I have lived among you a whole life before this, and you have known me as the same truthful person. Do you not understand? When God gave Muhammad the Quran and he went to his people with it, and he was preaching, they wanted him to bring something else. He said no, he couldn't do that. And now for Prophet Muhammad to tell them that you have known me all my life. You see, so this message that I brought is from God, and I couldn't change it. So God chooses messengers from, you know, their people, so that in other verses we have even seen some of them would say, if not for your tribe, because they know him, they know his people, they would say, if not for your tribe, we would have torn you to death, or we would have done this or that to you. You see, so God had to use this so that the people would fully No, the messenger that God had chosen from among them was truthful, and he brought the right guidance to them by God's grace. Thank you.
To make a comment regarding, you see the same pattern for all five of these messengers that went to their respective communities that were annihilated. And it says the people of X disbelieved the messengers, plural. What's interesting is you see that, before Noah, which messenger was there? Adam? That if you reject one messenger, it's as if you reject all the messengers. That's why I believe that it uses the term plural in all five of these instances. And it says their brother. Again, you can put Noah, Hud, Saleh, Shweb, right? Said to them, would you not be righteous? I'm an honest messenger to you. You shall reverence God and obey me. I do not ask you for any wage. My wage comes from the Lord of the universe. You shall reverence God and obey me. You see this exact same dialogue for each of these five messengers. And it goes to show it's like the requirement's relatively simple. It's like, okay, they're telling you that they're a messenger, and so they're making a proclamation. You have to, reverence God and then obey them, and that they don't ask for a wage. And despite this, each one has like a unique case that they're addressing between the people of Noah, Hud, Saleh, Lot, and Shweb. And these are the five communities that are consistently listed in this order that were annihilated. There's also another tell as far as the timeline. Because they're always in the same order, you see that Noah's the oldest, then it's Hud, then it's Saleh, then it's Lot, and then it's Shweb. And another interesting tell is that you never see Hud or Saleh or Noah mention the Salat or the Zakat. But in the context of Lot and Shweb, Salat is mentioned. So again, showing the the history of kind of who came first.
God repeats this a lot for us, that they say, "I am an honest messenger to you." Why is it so important that they're honest? Doesn't everyone lie? Right? Why is it important for the messenger to be honest? I think there's verses that may answer this, right? But if anyone wants to take a stab at it, then go first.
It's a proof that they have a reputation within their community of being honest, of being upright. That they're known for this. It's not just some random individual. They're individuals in the community that are known for their piousness. So when they come and make the proclamation, it's not that, hey, they were telling the truth about everything else, and then now all of a sudden they decided to lie about the most heinous of lies to claim that they have, divine revelation or authority if they didn't.
You get a lot of verses in the Quran, just like you have the messengers being honest. You have a lot of verses that says, "Who is more evil than one who fabricates lies and attributes them to God?" Right. Basically, God is putting people in a pickle, because if you believe the person who's the messenger is an honest, upright fellow, you see him as righteous, right? He declares himself a messenger. All right, well, now you're in a predicament, because this means that he's either telling the truth, right, and he's reflecting that in his character, or he is the worst and most evil individual in the planet.
Can I ask a question about Messenger?
Go.
Uh, does messengers ever bring like will it will it or could it ever be a thing? Just for example, let's say a messenger comes after Rashad. Now, is it a thing that they would add on to the 19 miracle, or would they come with their own miracle?
This is probably going to be very varied opinions on this. The messenger, the previous messenger, Rashad Khalifa, he did say that this miracle is so big that the believers have to work together to unveil it. Right. So I don't know if it's got to be some sort of very hidden layer. I would say if they're going to leverage part of Code 19 to be their proof, it's very hard. It's a very hard sell. I don't know if anyone else wants to.
To me,
Um,
it was. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
every messenger, every example that we have is of a new proof. So I would look for a new proof. There's a lot of math that has come, a lot of people that have claimed messengership since Rashad, and they have some various, math that proves this thing or that thing. If they're coming to change something that has already been clarified for us, then that's a false messenger. So they would have to have a clear new proof, in my opinion, and they should not be changing any of our tenets. Pray a different direction, pray 3 times instead of 5, things that haven't been challenged before, or, changing any of the other things that have already been clarified for us, that God has clarified for us through Rashad. So that's just my opinion. Assalamu alaikum.
By the way, Sister Kristen, peace be upon you. That's a great answer, and I want to resonate with that. I totally agree. And in the sense is like if they're coming, they're saying, "Hey, here's my message." Okay, does this message contradict the previous messenger or a previous message? All right, no, everything is the same. You've not really brought anything new. Okay, thank you for your message. I'm not going to reject. There's no reason to reject. You've not brought anything new, and all you're doing is confirming the old. So, accept you, no harm. Right? That's not a big deal at that point. Right. The problem is when they bring something new and then like, oh wait, this is sort of contradicts the previous message. Okay, now that's a very big problem. Right. The messages don't contradict to each other. Right. The message, like the messengers of God, they're not going to contradict and get in each other's way. The messages are not going to contradict. God does not give contradicting information. Right. That's why Sister Kristen's method is very good. I like to use that one for rejecting new messengers. But again, if everything is the same, then there's no harm, no foul, right?
It just
Brother,
that,
go
like, because there has been so many people that has found gems with 19 code after Rashad, but they're not claiming messengership. They're actually announcing that they're not claiming that. You know what I mean? So, it just seems like with so many submitters able to find more hidden gems, that required, in my opinion, that they come with a new proof, something else.
Brother Ibrahim Salamatu, your mic is hot. God bless you, brother.
Sorry if
God
I
bless
did
you. No,
question.
it's a great question. There's a couple of verses that are very good. The people who find awesome stuff in Code 19, I never hear them declare messengership, not yet at least. This I think is linked to chapter 56, verse 79. None can grasp the Quran except the sincere. And then chapter 42, verse 24. This one is a lot more interesting than people realize. Are they saying he has fabricated lies about God? If God willed, he could have sealed your mind. But God erases the falsehood and affirms the truth with his words. He is fully aware of the innermost thoughts. Now, the reason God says sealed his mind is because the Quran is inaccessible to the insincere, is inaccessible to the liars, and God does not guide the transgressors are the liars. This is chapter 40, verse 28. Right? So anyone who finds stuff in Quran tends to be sincere, like actual things. Hopefully we're not off topic. Did anyone want to talk more about that question? This is for the honest messenger bit, right? I am an honest messenger to you, and we're talking about messengers that may be lying, right?
Yeah.
There was I guess here. Let me see if I can grab. I think there was a article from Rashad. I'll just post it for you guys if you want to, if you care about it. God willing. And then the floor is open again.
Peace be upon you. Most people, would reject the messenger's proofs or the message he has brought to them, because one, they do not want to leave their old ideas of idolatry or the system that they are living in. Probably they are corrupt, and the messenger has come to preach to them to leave these things that they are doing, because it is not God's, ordained commandments that will lead them to hell, that will lead them to heaven. So they have to live it. If they really want to enjoy a blissful life, they have to, clean their slate. They have to be righteous. They have to, they do not have to be corrupt. So most of them, because they don't like what the messenger has brought, that is against their practices, evil deeds, they would say the messenger is a liar. And so the messenger has to tell them that he is honest, he's truthful. You see, when Rashad came and denounced, okay, let me say, when he came in the first place, he went around most of the Muslim world and preached about the oneness of God, preached about the greatness of the Quran, preached about the Quran that is not a human made. Muhammad was truthful. He was an honest messenger, a chosen messenger from God. Today we know that most Christians don't believe in Muhammad, despite all the proofs that the world is seeing coming out from the Quran. They still don't believe in. They call him a liar. And now a messenger again has come to prove to the world that Muhammad was truthful. He also was truthful with all the messages he has brought. So because most of them don't want to live that idolatry way of, their lives, they would say the messenger is a liar. And he has to tell them he's an honest messenger. He would even give them proof. But yet, one who is a disbeliever, you can never change him. So the messenger would tell them this, and he would continue to do his work. And only those who, are sincere in their hearts would believe or understand the message and believe in him. We have seen something like this in Surah 36, where three messengers were sent in succession until we saw in the Quran, God told us that a man came running, telling the people that these messengers are honest, and he believed them. And we saw his end, the way he ended. God told us he was promised paradise. So a lot of things, would go wrong with the disbelievers if they don't want to believe any messenger. And if any messenger like Bashar came with a mathematical miracle, so many people came up to say, yes, they are messengers because they brought in some mathematics. Rashad was the first messenger to coin that term, mathematics, discovery through code 19. It is not wrong for anybody else to make discoveries, mathematical, discovery. But why would they claim to be messengers when Rashad has come with something with that in the first place? When when Jesus came after Moses, he never said he has come to, destroy what Moses has done, but he came to confirm them, and his message is, augmented what he brought. You see, so this is how messengers support each other. But today, the messengers, that people that claim to be messengers, will come to refute what Rashad has done, and they want to claim that ownership. But to the glory of God, the world has moved, forward, and they only know that it was only Rashad who came with this. And even when they would say, no, we don't agree, it is Rashad, they are looking at not even those who are coming later to claim that they are messengers. It is not wrong to make discoveries. Today, great submitters are making discoveries, mathematical discoveries. They never claimed to be messengers because they knew that Rashad was the chosen one to do them. Thank you.
Praise God. I did put the article for anyone who wanted to read it. A false messenger of Satan. It does cite the verses to showcase that. Praise be to God.
The thing is that when God sends a messenger, it's also for a purpose. A purpose when the religion has been corrupted, a purpose of the religion needs clear clarification. People are very confused. Right now we have the Quran and there is clear clarification made. So I would think when God sends a messenger, it's a time that needs additional clarification for people's understanding or to unite believers under the same roof. So if they're saying the same things the messenger Carmen has already said, I mean, nobody needs to reject anybody, but the point is, what new message or what is it added? What's the purpose? What is your message basically that we're going wrong and what part that we need to correct? At the same time, it's not contradicting the previous messages. That's the part that I don't see much happening. A lot of people that claim messengership, they don't really have a message outside of what's already there. That was sense.
God bless you, brother. Anyone notice verse 108, 110? It's the same two verses. Is the Arabic the same, by the way? You shall reverence God and obey me. Repeated twice.
Wait, what verses are you referring to?
Chapter 26, verse 108 and 110. Same English translation. Is it the same exact Arabic?
108
I'll
or
read.
what?
And 110. I'm going to reload the verses for people.
Yes, the same Arabic,
Yeah.
exactly. 3 words.
All right, so
Reverence.
go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's the same 3 words.
Is it? Do you think?
Yeah,
What do you
sorry.
think the reason is for that?
That's a good question. I never noticed this redundancy before. What do you think?
I mean, there's always the obvious answer of code 19, right? But is God trying to enunciate, like, emphasize this statement?
Yeah. I mean, anytime you're repeating yourself, it means that you want someone to take note of what's being stated. So the fact that, back to back verses, it's saying, you shall reverence God and obey me. There's a, emphasis, importance being done there.
I would also tie this back to Noah's diligence in preaching, because he's inspired that no one else will believe after that point, after the people have already believed. So I guess I don't know. Either this is an extension of Noah's diligence or frustration, or just like the people there were just like really bad people, I guess.
Can I get people's opinion on the 2 verses I posted? It's 21:2 and 26:5. It does seem to suggest that they're. Sorry, let me put them in the chat again.
Hey, I put them in for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Doesn't that kind of say that they have to have something new?
Hey, say that again.
Brother Ismail is reading these two verses as
I mean,
suggesting that they always have to bring something new, right? When a proof comes to them from their Lord that is new, they listen to it heedlessly.
Oh,
and it's like two different attributes for God. Like one of them is just like Lord, and the second is Ar-Rahman, the most gracious, which is Ar-Rahman is like in the Quran is like associated with Christians. They're the one who are most likely to use Ar-Rahman.
hmm.
And what do you guys think as well? And like the first one is like, okay, you know what, Ismail? I think it's a very good thing that you brought this one first because they're so similar. They're like very similar, but then use like different words, and it makes you wonder like why, because like the first one is talking about like Lord, uh, if a new revelation or a new proof came to them from their Lord, they would listen and then play. In the Arabic, it says listen and play, but basically it means like heedlessly. It's like listen, but just they don't care. But then the second one, they turn away in a version.
Well, I
To be
think what
talking about like
Ismail's
yes,
trying to substantiate that, like AAA said, this would mean that every new messenger comes with some form of new proof, something that is new. Hence, but someone could make the argument that, for example, Rashad, well, technically he did come with something new, but it was within the
I mean
Quran.
it was new within Quran, but technically it was new, and no one
New.
knew about it. Yeah, I'm listening, Khadr. Do you want to finish? I'm listening.
Oh,
Well, I
no.
think that then he's in Rashad's example. I mean, you have
I can
such an avalanche of proof working in the favor of the affirmative. Not only do you have the avalanche of proof for the affirmative between every like little piece of the life and the nature of the miracle and everything of its nature, but then you also have a definitive purpose and need. It's not just kind of willy nilly. Um, there's need to confirm some of these rights and things of this nature. There's need to like push back against the exact same corruption that Jesus pushed back up against with the Pharisees, and they're bringing introduction of the Babylonian like Talmud over the Torah. Same thing with Hadith and Quran. Same thing, and then ultimately that Muhammad brings a new covenant, clarifies and brings it down. So it's like for every step, there's a purpose and a need. And even if you read all the prophets and messengers of the Old Testament, like they all have a purpose and a need. And um, so I think it's like these are roles that require the co-signing of God's word to validate a point. And so there's very few things that require that co-signing. Most things you could say, okay, well, what if someone's just blessed with this as a wise person, like a Luqman or, a saint or something like this, like most of these arguments just have no, like, it's not sufficient enough, for example, and it's not a good enough reason just to try to get more people to come to believe in God, for example, or for like unity in the world, because the world, God says to treat it with benign neglect. Jesus says be a passerby. It's like this purpose of like saving the world just doesn't exist. It's just a fantasy that sounds good. And so a lot of people try to cling around this, like, we got to save it all and all kind of good stuff. And it's like, no, we don't. That's never asked of you um, anywhere, in fact. Um, but it's just a fantasy. And so I think that when people fall into false messengership, they may be experiencing a lot of profound sides, but ultimately it's falling to the ego and this that I think kind of comes from this desire for people to want a very close relationship with God, and that goes goes wrong around the way. Like, what's the verse where it says, like, we didn't reveal some information to you. If we revealed it too early, it would have been harmful for you. So I think sometimes having less information is better than having more information, things like this.
I mean, that's well said, Francis. But I feel like it's a bit tangential to, like, I think the whole discussion was centered around, do new messengers come with new proofs for the purpose of remembrance, a reminder? So what do you think? Based on these two verses, they use the same word dhikr, and new. So you think that's like a rule of
Yeah.
thumb in God's system? Do we have an example of a messenger who brings something different? The same thing?
Generally, we haven't seen the same miracle duplicated, especially if it's not the same thing. In fact, we probably have warnings that people will try to falsify miracles under the same notion,
Yes.
Like, for example, for Jeremiah and Ezekiel, having a certain type of vision of going to like the high heavens, that kind of a thing, and seeing, like prophesying, that was enough proof for them, right? And their time, they were in an extreme period of time, and they were, fairly immediately proven correctly, right? Even before they died. By the very nature of the events they prophesied coming to playing out, over the course of like 2 years, so on and so forth. And later on, like there is this, I don't know if you want to call it out-of-body experience, this vision experience, things like that, that is a component, like Jesus has a component of that, Muhammad has a component of that, Rashad has a component of that, other people have a component of it. But that alone is not enough anymore. Like that alone, and number one is that not enough, but number two is you can't verify it, right? So, for example, you take a person like Jeremiah, they have the vision, they have the things like this that happens, but then they also have the events that they prophesied came true immediately, like conquering of Jerusalem by Babylon, like immediately coming to pass, like within a very short time horizon. So that in itself like serves as proof. We go back to the Quran, I don't think there's a single prophet in the Quran or a single messenger in the Quran that's given the same example of proof happening while
Well,
they are,
similar in that regard, wouldn't you think? Joseph prophesizes or interprets a dream and it's later fulfilled. The time span of the 7 years had to take place, and his credibility proportionally increased as the things that he prophesied to happen did actually happen. So I'd say he's similar to
yeah,
Jeremiah
but
and Ezekiel in that regard.
it's similar, but his is altogether different because his is the interpretation of dreams and under your theory narrative, right? So there have been countless proofs before it comes to the major proof. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you bring him a narrative, and whereas Jeremiah can't do that. Jeremiah can't interpret dream. Like he just has that one vision, that one thing, and then that one like, here's what's gonna happen. You guys are all doomed, right?
right. Well, I don't know if this is a discussion portion of the Quran study, but there is a verse that I wanted to, bring up, a verse I've been thinking about. Are we in the discussion portion? Or are we still in chapter 12?
I mean, technically, it's still the study, but I think if I mean, as long as it's tangentially related, since we're not getting too many comments, go for it.
All right, just a second. I'm fixing my microphone.
Okay. Well, I don't know if it's tangentially related even. To be fair, it's just one verse, but I don't want to stretch this Quran study too far. We can just read it and skip over it, come back to another time. But I was reading chapter 11, and based on the biblical account, it was always in my mind that after the flood with Noah, It was just Noah and his sons, and then they spread out throughout the earth. But I see in 1148 it says, "أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم." It was proclaimed, "O Noah, disembark with peace and blessings upon you and upon nations who will descend from your companions." So it wasn't just Noah on the ark, it was his companions. And God is saying that, there'll be nations who will descend from his companions. As for other nations descending from him, and this is where the wording kind of threw me off. As for other nations descending from you, we will bless them for a while, then commit them to a painful retribution. So why that's double standard between the nations that descend from Noah's companions, the nations that descend from him? And the only nation I can think of that descended from Noah is, well, Quran says the children of Israel, one of those people whom, we carried on the ark. So, yeah, if anyone has any ideas regarding this, it was very peculiar for me.
I'd say that's related. I mean, at least it's about Noah. But yeah, I mean, I never noticed that it specifically says you, right, as nations coming from you. That's
Yes.
interesting. But it is known that, yeah, basically all the believers joined Noah on the ark. It wasn't just his immediate family, anyone who believed, because it even says in the verse we read, is that the worst among us have followed you. It
Yes.
signifies that there were other believers with Noah.
My thinking or my theory of it was, so he says for the descendants of Noah, he says that we will bless them for a while and then commit them to a painful retribution. And my understanding of that would be, okay, like if the children of Israel, or the prophets that were sent mainly from the children of Israel, were all descendants of Noah, as the Quran says, descendants of Abraham, then these are people who received scriptures. These are people who are held to a higher standard, and as we see through with time, they deviated. So I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of it, but it's a very peculiar verse in that regard.
Peace. I just find it interesting, right? That um, the people that descend from the people from the followers of Noah, they're blessed, and so from that perspective, I would think that the children of Israel, I think they descend from Noah because they descend from Abraham, and Abraham, you know, his people were destroyed. He's basically him and Lot and maybe a bunch of other people were the only ones who followed him. But his people at the end, well, I think in other scriptures it says they were destroyed. And Abraham, he moved away from them. So I think the Bible actually doesn't mention that. Yeah, it's just an interesting fact. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, another theory, if you're taking the biblical genealogy, is the people that spread out the Middle East region were, well, a lot of them were sons of Noah. The people who went to Egypt, that was the son of Noah, Ham, who's one of his sons was Mizraim, which means Egypt. And then people who went to different communities in the Middle East. My understanding of that was perhaps Ad, Thamud, Midian. These are all examples of uh, nations that descended from Noah originally, but that's just a theory with no proof.
When you look at the Arabic, though, it does kind of clarify things. The you here in both instances is actually Noah. So
Yes.
it says, "O Noah, disembark with peace and blessings upon you and upon nations who will descend from your companions." Right. So it's still those nations, those ummah, are still from him. As for the
Yes.
other nations descending from you, so it's basically saying like from this you're gonna splinter two. One is gonna be believing, one's gonna be disbelieving. We will bless them for a while, then commit them to painful retribution. Does that make sense? So they're
Yeah, it makes
both
sense.
are descending, yeah, from Noah. Because when I was first reading it, I was like, huh, yeah, it sounds like one's descending from his companions, and then the other one's descending from him. But yeah, it says your companion, so he's part of that your companions.
It's a
Inclusive.
peculiar translation choice, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of stuff like, say, for instance, even the context of, some of the terminology when Rashad translates, say, for instance, a community or a nation. These terms can be used interchangeably, but I feel like it's at those times when going to the Arabic to say, okay, well, which one's used, gives some clarity. Because in English, like a community could be a small, gathering, or it could be massive. It just depends on the context. But like in Arabic, use like ummah, right? It's like, okay, that signifies like a much larger, grander community.
So,
Right.
brother, these use are singular or plural?
Which words are you referring to? Can you reiterate that, brother?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. The same verse, number 48, where it talks, "O Noah, disembark with peace and blessings upon you." In here, if it is singular, so it's talking to Noah. The Arabic we have to check.
Yeah,
And
it's talking to Noah in that beginning part.
the second, okay, it says, "and upon nations will descend from your companions." So this should be, if it is singular, then it's Noah. If it is plural, is him and the companions. As for the other nations descends from you, then again, I don't know whether that's singular in Arabic or plural. I guess that's my question. Those who know Arabic.
Well, it doesn't necessarily specify nations descending from you. It's just originally, so it says بسلام minna, like disembark, go down with peace from us and blessings upon you, and umam mimman ma'ak, which means nations or communities from those with you. Okay? And then the next word is and other nations. So Rashad's choice for other nations here is other nations descending from you. And honestly, Peter,
Peace.
it does make sense because it says umamin mimman ma'ak, nations from those with you, not your name. It doesn't feel like he's included. I mean, I could be wrong, but it could be read as him not being included in the nations that are with him. Hence the choice to translate it into his companions who are with him in the ark. Does that make sense?
I think Douglas was going to make a comment. I'll comment after Douglas, God willing.
Peace. Thank you.
Peace be upon you.
It's my understanding God knows best based on the Quran and what have you, that all human beings today are descendants of Noah. That the people who were with Noah, family or non-family on the ark, were the progenitors of all other nations and people. That the Noah's community was a regional community. It was not, as we know, the flood did not encompass the entire earth, and it was regional. And at that time, that's where all of the human beings on earth habitated at that time. They lived. And the flood, in fact, destroyed all peoples who were not on the boat with Noah. And in the chat, I placed in the chat, descendants of Noah include all peoples. Descendants of Abraham, who was neither Jewish or Christian, right? Abraham had Ishmael and Isaac. So both of them constitute the Hebrew and the non-Hebrew communities or nations. So it would be incorrect to say that Bani Israel directly proceeded from Noah. And it would also be incorrect to say that non-Jews, the non-Jewish communities and nations, uh, directly, in the sense that no group was given preference. Abraham was neither Jewish or Christian. Thank you. Peace.
Thank you, brother.
From
That was
my
a good point. Sorry, go ahead, Peter. Apologies.
Yeah, so from my understanding, ma, as opposed to min, usually indicates that it's inclusive. when it says with you in 1148, that this would include Noah as part of that. Um, but if it was like min, then it would have been like from, and it doesn't mean that it's inclusive to a to a no. I looked in this in the past regarding another verse. That's the reason I feel fairly confident that yeah, when it uses ma, that it would this would indicate that it's including Noah.
Okay. I mean, contextually, it does include Noah, but yeah, I get what you mean. But then why do we have this dichotomy between the descendants who are with you and including Noah and other descendants?
I always see this.
Peace.
Good.
Peace. Because among the descendants, you had the believers and non believers. In other words, God has clearly pointed out in the Quran that the descendants of Noah and Abraham included, well, the peoples who came after Noah and Abraham were in those communities were believers and non believers. That's my understanding here. That's true in any community. Thank you. Peace.
Yes,
Yeah,
I want to
just
add to that
reminds
as
me of
well. Oh, sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
just like when it says Abraham says, "What about my descendants?" It says, "My covenant does not include the disbelievers."
Yes.
That there's this every time you have a believing, I mean it's gonna fall into two factions. You're gonna have believers and disbelievers.
Yes, no, that's well said. I also want to clarify a mistake I made. So I thought that the children of Israel were descended from Noah, but in 17:3 it says they're descendants of those whom we carried with Noah. So it could either have been descendants directly from Noah or his companions, the people who believed with him. So it doesn't necessarily have to. You're right on that, Douglas, and I wanted to correct myself and clarify that. But yeah, thank you guys. That was well said. Makes sense though.
Please wait on
What is
you.
it? Oh,
Yes.
good. Brother.
Okay, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. I just have some other verses regarding or comments regarding the verses, but yeah, go ahead. I can hold off.
Okay, thank you, brother. My comment is about 105 to maybe 114, thereabout. Looking at the behavior of the disbelievers here. When the messenger of God went to them with clear proofs, they disbelieved him, and when others believed him, I don't know, maybe to say they wanted to keep their disbelief, and they were, making some excuses to say that those that they refer to as worse among them have believed. This is not the reason why they disbelieved or why they do not want to believe with the messenger. They do not want to believe with the messenger because they also saw him as one of those worst people among them. Because most of the time, when we read the Quran, most of the elders would say the messenger has nothing. And why would God prefer a messenger that is not compared to them, is not to their own level, and not chose from them? So they generalize people who are weak, who are not brave, to be worse people among them. Instead of them to even believe in God and believe in this messenger and still yet be recognized as people who are rich among them, and they would use their resources to help the community. But because they do not want to do that, they we're having excuses that the people who are of low, uh, you know, uh, low in their background, they are not rich, they are poor, are worst among them. You see, in Surah 22, verse maybe 8, that speaks about the worst people there. It's talking about people who are old, who have reached the worst age, people that have no knowledge, they cannot understand anything. In that background, they could be among the rich, among the poor, people who have reached, a certain age in their life that some of their children or grandchildren may even pass by them and they would not even understand them. They will be asking who is there or asking questions like a child. In the Quran, we were meant to understand that from, childhood, we grow to, adulthood, and from there, we come back to weakness. That is that is the nature that God is describing here. When people of such level reach what age, they hardly can even understand anything. In that verse, I think God says, sorry if I can open it quickly. Okay, God says, okay, it's in verse 5. Towards the end of the verse, God says, these people, while some of you died young, others lived to the work age, only to find out that no more knowledge can be attained beyond a certain limit. You see, when some people reach the work age, their knowledge diminishes. They do not understand anything anymore. Imagine a man that is of age maybe 100 and above cannot understand so many things anymore of this life. So this is what I want to comment on. Thank you.
I wanted to make a comment regarding the response from Noah's people, which is pretty standard. Rather than coming up with, refutations or arguments to why Noah's wrong, they resort to violence. It says they said, "Unless you refrain, O Noah, you will be stoned." And what's funny is if you look, the Muslim countries, they all institute this law of stoning people for various crimes. The only people in the entire Quran who stone are the disbelievers. So rather than taking the traits, the actions of the believers, the traditionalists have taken the very thing that the disbelievers do. What's funny is they have this motto in traditionalism that they say, if you imitate them, you become them. Yet they seem to have no problem imitating the punishments of the disbelievers, because nowhere in the Quran do you see that there's a punishment of stoning.
Yes, I mean, some of them even claim that the punishment for stoning was instituted in the Quran, but it was abrogated, and the verses were abrogated. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's always their
How could you
fallback.
ever make an abrogation argument? Oh, sorry. How can you ever make an abrogation argument with the Quran when the Quran specifically says who, none can abrogate his word, right? That's weird.
Yeah, it's always the last resort. When they get absolutely stuck, they just make the claim, "Oh, it's abrogated." You're having a discussion with someone. Man, what was the topic? It was drinking while standing up, right? We're saying like, look, the hadith says that the prophet said you shouldn't drink while standing up. And they said, "No, that's just a recommendation." It's like, okay, here's another hadith that says you have to vomit immediately if you drink while standing up. And then background noise. Who's making all that noise? Yeah. And then so we show them the hadith that you have to vomit, and then they said, "Oh, it's a metaphorical vomit." Um, and then we say, "Okay, well, there's this hadith that says they saw the prophet drinking while standing up. Oh, that was just a special case." And then there's the the last hadith was some of you say that the prophet said that you shouldn't drink while standing, but I'll tell you, the prophet used to drink while standing and eat while sitting. And then they said it was abrogated. It was like once they run out of options, that's like their last Uno card.
Yeah, like there's no more discussion past that point. It's just just agree to disagree.
I saw someone just within the past 48 hours argue that the Quran cannot be real because it confirms previous corrupted scriptures and therefore it's not true. And he was a Sunni, and I'm like, you would rather argue that the Quran is not or like is basically not valid than to abandon your hadith. That's kind of crazy.
I
I mean,
want to
just goes.
say something that's oh,
Oh, sorry. Go
sorry.
ahead.
We go
Sorry.
ahead.
No, I'm good. Please.
Okay, so the verse 118, it shows mannerism. If we meet with those people who are, transgressors or even aggressors or disbelievers, we usually tend to curse them and wish them ill and really do all we can do to with words and yelling. But I noticed that the messengers, they don't do that. They only would like he says, uh, grant me victory against them and deliver me and company of believers. He did not actually curse. He just asked God to give him victory, and he will deal with whatever the way that he wants. He did not say, curse them, send them retribution, annihilate them. We could wish a lot of things for those enemies, but the way to do it is to ask for winning, ask for a victory instead. So it's never using the negative words when dealing with the words with the people. We should always stay in the positive manner, even when we want to wish something against the enemies. We don't do it in that way, in negative way. We actually just ask for or demand or request victory, or in some way use the positive words to win against the enemies. And that actually just I noticed how all the messengers, they don't really curse like us. I do when I meet the enemy. I just in my mind, I just say all these negative things, and I wish them to be cursed and to be punished. I wish them to be punished. But we do have the tendency to do that right away. But we need to refrain from that and try to reverse and do it the other way, is to wish the victory for us instead. And God will deal with the enemy in his own way. Back to you.
I would say I do agree with your point that it's always better to to ask for victory rather than, curse another person. But you do have like an example where, Moses asked God to harden Pharaoh and his elders' hearts and to prevent them from believing, to wipe out their wealth until they see a painful retribution. But to be fair, this is in the context of people who were being actively persecuted for years by another. Moses says like they repel people or repulse others from God's path, and yeah, like they were active enemies of God in that instance. So I guess you could try to justify it a little bit and understand Moses' anger towards them.
I don't know if it's permissible to do that. Is it haram to actually do this, like curse people and wish them to be punished and severely punished? I don't know. But from seeing this verse, it's just I learn a better way to do it. Just focus on myself instead.
Yeah, I do think that that's God's system. Is like you're only responsible for your own decisions and actions, and you allow God to take care of the rest. But it's this human tendency. It's like, no, I want to be the one who doles out punishment, and it's by my command that these people will suffer wrath. I think that that's it comes from ego. To be the one to say yes, I want to, I want to be the cause to get back at these people.
But would you think it unrighteous to ask God to be the cause? For God to punish these people?
I think you would have to be. I mean, these are extreme cases, right? In the case of Noah, who thought, but I would say for most of us, we're probably more often than not falling into the realm of ego than actual justice. Right? It's that our
Right.
egos got hurt and we want them to. Not always, but I'd say more often than not. Because contemplate, I mean, dude, Noah was like 950 years. How many hundreds of years was he like debating with his people? Um, and for us, we have one discussion with someone, and we're like, rain down fire and brimstone. This person is rejected. Mm. There's this clip from I mean it's taken from the Bible, but in the Chosen, the TV series, where you have the sons of Zebedee. God, it's John, and I'm drawing and Simon. I can't remember the other guy's name. And they're passing by I believe it's the Samaritans, and the Samaritans like spit at them, and they're like, "Send down fire and brimstone." Like they just had one bad interaction, and it was enough for them to like cast out. And it reminds me similar to like the angels, right? Are you going to place there in one who will shed blood while we sing your praises? Where God is most gracious. We lack patience. Someone says something mean and nasty to us, even if it's absolutely blasphemous. That's enough for us to say, okay, it's done. Judgment has been served. What's an interesting take is in the verse, it says, God tells Moses to speak to Pharaoh nicely. Perhaps, he takes heed, he reforms. And keep in mind, at this point, Pharaoh did some pretty heinous stuff. He killed the children of Israel, he enslaved them. He did all these things that are just absolutely repulsive, horrendous. Yet he still had the capacity to correct his ways. um, and contemplate that God allowed Moses to give him all, provide him all these miracles, all these chances to repent before it's like, okay, his heart's going to be hardened and it's game over. I do think that, more often than not, our problem isn't that we're too nice. Some people are, but I'd say that the average is that we're too mean.
That's well said. It's quite true.
That's why it makes
Jesus goes as
Abraham.
far as to say is,
Oh, good.
I was saying, Jesus goes so far as to command that you should bless your enemies. While they curse you, you should bless them. You know, not if there's a reason to get too far, but it probably just goes to the consistent pattern you see is that we're too quick on the trigger figure, and like you said, these are extreme examples. When for example, no praise disbelievers get wiped out or apart. It's like this is extreme scenarios, and I don't think any of us come across extreme scenarios like this.
Yeah, that's why Abraham was such an outlier, where like his problem was he was too darn too darn nice. Uh, but I think that's why he's a exemplary kind of like example. It's not the norm of human beings. Can legitimately say it wasn't nice because he was weak, right? It's not that, oh, he's just, didn't have a backbone. I mean, the guy was willing to be thrown in fire, stand up against the masses. So it's not that he was doing it out of weakness. Like he was genuinely doing it out of love and compassion and concern.
It's funny. A lot of people say, "Oh, his mistake was that he was too kind. We should be less kind." Like, oh, no, you missed the point completely.
Yeah, that if you're gonna err on that side.
I have a question about the Ibrahim and the fire. Why didn't he run away? Should we, if we face such a situation, should we not hide or run away or do something to avoid being burned?
Well, I don't know the last time you had a whole angry mob try to grab you, but it's not exactly easy to get away from it.
It's like going into a mosque and taking down the name of Muhammad, trying to get out.
Yeah, is this a not trying to test God or not challenge God, or what is it? If he has so much faith in God, but we should not test God, shouldn't we just run away and try to avoid being persecuted by the enemies?
Well, I mean, he probably did. It's just like, when the whole town is on a witch hunt for you, and they're coming to get you. It's not easy to get away. I mean, I would assume that he probably wasn't just casually putting God to the test.
No, but the initial
Uh,
decision to destroy their idols and leave the largest one to make a point, but simultaneously, anyone would know that the reaction to the mob of the mob would be, let's burn him or stone him or etc. 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 So, was he testing God then and there?
well, he's also a prophet. Remember, he's got basically commands being given to him through a mechanism that's extraordinary. So,
Yeah, but at
um,
this point, I think
you
at
know,
this point it says he was a youth, right?
yeah, but age has nothing to do with when you can receive inspiration from God. So Jeremiah gets it at like 18.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say
That's
is,
like,
like, you're in a community of idol worshippers, pagans, let's just say. You're inspired that there's only one God. You have two choices then and then. You could just abandon that community or preach, they don't listen, then abandon them. Or, in Abraham's example, he doesn't just preach, he tries to make a point by destroying the statues, almost convincing them that they cannot hear them, and this is just a bunch of nonsense. But he must have known that the reaction would have been to kill him.
Two paths. One, as a kid, you don't necessarily know the proper consequences of your actions. So, you could have thought there's no way they would probably do that to me. Or number two, like basically the mechanism of inspiration he receives is basically you have to do this. There's no choice because prophets and messengers are never given a choice. Well, they're given a choice, but uh, it's really a not choice. Like,
Yeah, but he a prophet at that time?
Yeah, that's a good question.
well, I mean, yeah, we don't know. We don't
Yeah,
know
so
under
because he
what
was looking for
circumstances.
God. At that time he was looking for God. He knows that God exists. He's looking for God. So he wasn't a prophet yet.
Oh, we don't know. We don't know that. We like. There's
It
no.
really depends on
We
who
don't
You
you
have a
ask.
story.
assumed he's prophet, and you, as if you know for sure he was a prophet.
That's
No,
true.
I
You
mean,
did, you did make that
I
assumption,
said.
friend.
Well, we don't know if he does or does not. So he basically, when you look at his actions, you have to look at it through the lens of like he's operating. He's most likely operating with knowledge in cases like this that we don't have.
Where is that knowledge
So,
when he looked at the moon and the sun looking for God? Where is that knowledge?
well, everyone's born with that knowledge. All I'm saying is that you can't you can't like say that he's not he wasn't aware of it at that point. Or like I said, because we have other examples where someone like I said, literally Jeremiah's like, I'm just a kid, I can't do this, and then they're like, well, I'll give you the words, don't you'll speak. And he goes out and he has to go speak at 18 or 19 or something like this. So age is not a consideration.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, even I think John the Baptist, it says that he was granted wisdom at a young age, explicitly in the Quran, chapter 19. But the point that we're trying to make is, would this technically, let's say any of us were in that position, irrespective of whether we were granted knowledge or not. Like, let's assume that Abraham wasn't granted revelation, that he should destroy the idols. It's just what his mind inspired him to do, which was also part of God's plan. Would we be committing a sin if we were in such a specific scenario, where we destroy the idols, leave the largest one, let's say it's in a public area, to prove a point to our people? Obviously, we're not in the same circumstances, but you know, you also have the alternative of just running away. And
Well, we don't know that he had the alternative of running away. I mean, that was his home for all his like up until the point where he abandons them. Like we have to, it's basically like he was committed to, didn't intend to flee, didn't intend to be leaving.
that's true.
I mean, like he was trying to basically get his people to see reason, right? Like, I mean, wouldn't you do the same?
Yeah, but the question is, you get to a point, you're trying to make your people see reason, and at a certain point, depending on what you say or what you do, the consequences could be violence against you. Possibly you could get killed. Should we take such a decision and trust in God? And would that not be testing God? Or should we always just try not to,
So, I mean, then your argument would derive down to he's a youth. He doesn't properly know how to gauge situations yet. He takes he takes the extreme in an example, thinking like almost every youth thinks that they're invincible and nothing bad's going to happen to them. I mean, that's just a common human thing, being a young male. He goes, he destroys it, he makes his point, and then it's like, uh-oh, now they're really angry and they're going to try to kill me. That's
yeah.
Didn't think they would take it that far. I mean, would you expect your dad to take it that far? Like, I wouldn't. Like,
I mean,
I'd be caught surprised.
Yeah, but it depends on the context you're in. Like, keep in mind, let's take an example, a modern example, like Rashad. He was arrested in Libya, was he not? Or one of one of the people in the Masjid Tucson, they spoke out against the Hadith, and they were jailed for 6 months, or something of the
Yeah,
sort.
well, they clearly didn't expect it. Like, I mean, unless he went out and be like, you know what, I'm going to get put in, I don't think anyone intentionally is like, I'm going to go get put in jail now, right?
Well, this is actually a bigger point that I wanted to mention, and I don't want to divert too much, but this is really important. So we say God is running everything, and I had this debate with a Coptic Christian, my friend Daniel, Uh, basically, I'll just give you an example. Person A wants to get a motorcycle, but he believes it's just an arbitrary example, but just to prove the point. Person B thinks that motorcycles are dangerous, and if you end up crashing the motorcycle, something bad, they're much more dangerous than cars. So person A tells person B, listen, God controls life and death. Okay, there's no there's no danger. Everything is God is running everything. And person B tells person A that, okay, God is running everything, but wouldn't God want you to be prepared and not to lead yourself into destruction? So who is in the right in this scenario? Person A or person B? The one who wants to get the motorcycle, irrespective of the consequences, thinking that all outcomes are controlled by God and you're not leading yourself to destruction? Or the one who takes a more rational approach and says, God would want you to be prepared, not to, make decisions that are, you know, dangerous.
Person B is equating a motorcycle to jumping off a cliff, right? So
Yeah,
riding a motorcycle is not a matter of being insufficiently prepared, right? Now, riding a motorcycle off a cliff and then the person A are using his argument, well, if I die, I die. Yeah, this is not being sufficiently prepared. This is throwing himself into the destruction. But simply riding a motorcycle is not lacking preparation.
yeah, but let's say you have two options. One is more dangerous than the other within the realm of, normal relative danger. Um, in this purview, can we always just claim that, listen, if God's in control of all outcomes, there's nothing to fear? Or should one always do his best to, you know, to make decisions with the least consequences to that person's safety and well-being, still in
Uh,
consideration
This
of
is
the God?
somewhat cultural, I think.
oh,
Sorry.
so no worries. I mean, I'll let you go after, brother. I just want to chime in real quick. It's very short. In this situation, again, it's taking extremes of either path, right? When we ride a car, we don't put a helmet on, right? We're already sufficiently prepared, right? Similarly, the
Right.
motorcycle is still in the middle path, right? And now if I remove the brakes off the motorcycle, then I start riding and say, well, God's going to take care of me. Yeah, I'm lacking preparation. Right. So this is if we go too extreme, we should be wearing life vests and helmets when we enter a car, or not even take a car. We should just walk everywhere. You know. And then the other extreme is, oh, let me just be as dangerous as possible and just count on God to save my neck when I jump off the cliff. Yeah, this is also crazy. Right. You got
Right.
to go the middle path.
Peace. Peace.
Peace.
Peace be upon you.
Regarding the question, I posted in the chat Surah 8, verse 60. I've got preparation. No one literally, absolute sense, no one knows the future. If one were not to prepare or take precautions, that would be the lack of common sense, which God gave us. He gave us a logic, reasoning, and common sense. Now, verse 60 says, and I seek refuge with God from Satan. You shall prepare for them all the power you can muster and all the equipment you can mobilize, that you may frighten the enemies of God, your enemies, as well as others who are not known to you. God knows them. Whatever you spend in the cause of God will be repaid to you generously without the least injustice. Although specific to war or preparations for war and defense, this verse clearly is a command and where God enjoins you to prepare. Take the appropriate precautions and prepare for danger. It's not faith and belief in God to be, and I'll use this term without aspirations toward anybody. Being stupid is not the same as faith in God. God expects us to use our common sense and our intelligence and take appropriate precautions. Simply because you take precautions, or in the case of Surah 6, verse 80, you prepare, does not mean that you lack trust in God. Peace. Thank you.
Peace, brother. That's very well said. Oh, sorry, brother. I mean, you want to say something, actually.
I just wanted to add to that. One thing is that you have to also consider that the risk acceptability of people is different because they are brought in a different environment, different culture. And you know, if you are brought in a very an area or a country or a situation that you're more exposed to certain type of risks, you naturally accept them a little bit better as opposed to you raised in a different country in a different situation. So this is one of those things that, you know, driving, for example, you take driving in North America or these countries, the way people drive, you know, the precautions they take with the same vehicle or similar vehicles. And then you go to the Middle East, certain countries, they drive a lot more aggressive, a lot more risk taker, compare relative to how we drive. But to them, they're driving normally. So you have to consider that people's risks acceptability is also cultural of the way you go. So to them, they are taking the necessary precaution, but maybe this is the way, the culture, the way they drive. I mean, if you go to statistics, maybe they also have more accidents, or maybe they have accidents, but the accident is not that extreme. But I don't want to turn into a science into this, but nonetheless, the idea is that people have different level of risk acceptability, and you have to work within your means of what you accept to be reasonable. At the same time, you should stay away from being over, you know, obsessive or over careful about things. When you think it's affecting you and you're getting you worried, then you know that something's not quite right. So it's just a mental check rather than anything else, I think.
That was very well said, brother. I appreciate it. Both of you, brother Douglas and Amin. You know, I'll give you guys a more specific example regarding the context of, you know, this conversation, because it's hard to draw the line between stupidity and rationale, you know? So, like here, for example, whenever I pray in like a public prayer room, not like a mosque or anything, just an area where people pray, um, I'm put in a position where, you know, I stand out because I pray a certain way. So I have two options. I can, you know, certain individuals, they stop me and they want to understand. From that position, I can either debate them, tell them that they're wrong, explain to them, you know, what the Quran actually says, etc. Or I can simply just avoid the confrontation. So my Coptic Christian friend Daniel, because they're also a minority here in Egypt, they always take the approach to avoid confrontation because they're afraid of the basically the how crazy the Sunnis and violent they can get. Meanwhile, on the other hand, I can't draw the line between, okay, is this a fear of the people more than the fear of God? Can't I just trust that God will protect me, etc. So, you know, in this scenario, what would you guys do? Because, you know, yeah, it's just a bit more nuanced. Like, is it really leading yourself into destruction, or is it just a lack of trust in God to protect you? How do you draw that line?
Oh, by the way, there's no verse that alludes to this leading to yourself to destruction in the Quran. The verse that has to do with this is taken probably misunderstood in the context. It's not talking about, you know, it's saying if you don't pay your, you know, if you don't spend in the cause of God or, you know, pay the things that God is asking you to do, you lead yourself into destruction. So I think we shouldn't take that concept if you're referring to that verse out of that context, because a lot of people argued for cigarettes and other things using that verse, but that verse is talking about something else, in my recollection.
Right. No, I mean that you're right. That verse is in the context of spending charity. But this is kind of where I tie back Abraham's example. So Abraham is with people who are very aggressive and violent. They're idol worshippers. He still decides to take, you know, actually debate and confront them rather than, you know, kind of like run away. So I ask you guys, what is, you know, what is more acceptable, to fear the people, or, you know, alternatively prepare and understand that, you know, you can't do anything, or to confront the people, knowing that there could be a risk for confrontation, whether, you know, violent or unviolent, but you don't know that, you don't know the future. You don't know where, you know, where this could end up. Does that make sense? I tried to articulate it as best as I could.
My 2 cents, it's you know, pick and choose your battles. Um, and this is in everything in life. Like, do you really want to spend your time, like some small little riff with some random dude off the street who sees you praying a certain way? I actually had someone come to me. They were like, "Oh, I was praying in the city," and then two, Sunnis came up to them and started debating. It was some female. Why aren't you praying with a head covering? Don't you know about the sunnah, this and that? And she was saying, like, we swapped phone numbers. I don't know why, but now they're like texting them, this person, the submitter, and basically waiting for an answer. And I told them, I said, hey, just invite them to the server. But the concept is like, is it really worth like the time, the effort, the energy to get into the nitty gritty with someone? Again, if you get the sense that hey, they're not a good faith actor, because there's a million fights we can have every day, but it's just a matter of okay, yeah, what's the most valuable use of your time and efforts and energy?
Peace.
Right. Oh, peace be upon you all.
Peace, brother. I know there's this idea of Rashad where he's actually talking to his congregation and he's saying like, you guys ever travel somewhere like I don't know, like a Muslim country, and they like detain you or whatever, and he's like, I want you to tell them that you don't believe in me. He's like, just reject
I just see
me.
it as a aspect of just being practical. It's not about a
Testing.
year or something like that.
Peter, can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, brother.
We can hear you both.
Oh, can we? Okay. Yeah, no. It basically tells his congregation like if you are held anywhere, right? By like Sunnis, he's like just reject me. Like just tell them you don't believe in me and reject submission. That's fine. He's like, I would rather you guys be alive and get to grow your soul more than be like basically be killed and stuff like that. There's a verse for that in the Quran too, where it says if you're forced to profess disbelief, you're not to be blamed. So yeah, like
What is
I
it
think
called?
with Abraham, it's maybe a little
Bible?
bit different because that was his like whole world, right? Like there's, I guess, the world was a smaller place, so he's like the only one in all of the sunlight. Like, you know what I mean? I think that was a little bit different. And yeah,
Yeah, you have the people of the cave as well. Rather than trying to preach to people whom they know they would stone them, they actually, they seek refuge with God. And they go to the cave to get away from the people rather than confronting them, which would lead to the impractical outcome of, being stoned to death. So, but the question is, like, like you guys bring up some really good points. It is, being rational, but would the alternative be a sin? Actively,
no.
not standing down.
Oh, like to hold your ground and then get killed?
Hold your ground. Well, not to get killed. You obviously don't know that, but to hold your ground with the possibility of, a violent confrontation or escalation.
I
Peace,
I I can't call it a sin personally. Peace for the Sajjad. Go ahead.
Tony. Yeah, I don't think it's a sin. Abraham didn't back down. Jesus didn't back down. Mulder didn't back down. You can, like stand on business if you want to, but you don't have to, right? Yeah, but don't just like throw your life away for no reason. Like you have to be appreciative of it as well. And there's not been many situations I guess submitters had to deal with that. But I guess if it's like a grand spectacle and they're like forcing you to profess disbelief, and that shows like the weakness of submitters, and you might be like, no, I'm gonna on business. I guess that's righteous. But if like just some random person grabs you and is like, profess disbelief, otherwise I'm gonna unalive you, there's no point in like uh, saying that not professing disbelief in that case. I guess.
I also want to add confrontation is not always necessarily a righteous thing or a sign of righteousness. And proof of that is Moses was ordered to leave and take his people and run away from pharaohs. When God can actually send soldiers and fight pharaohs, and he can annihilate the whole people. So the avoiding confrontation, sometimes it is a good decision to do. Moses also left when he killed. He ran away.
Right.
So the confrontation is not necessarily a sign of righteousness. You have to be smart about it.
No, I agree. Practicality is important, but there's more nuance to it because sometimes I don't know if you guys were put in this position before, but you're in the presence of let's say a Sunni, for example, and you have the option, they're spouting misinformation. You have the option to correct them or to just back down and not say anything.
This is Khadir, I faced a lot of that. It is also depends on the time. Like Peter said, you pick your battle. There are times they're not ready to hear this. They're just picking on you. They're not ready to hear that, and you know those people. They're not going to even accept it. So there are times it's just best is not to be faced by those people.
But do
And
we know?
yes, you will know. You will know if you're in your own community, for example, like a gathering of all your own Sunnis people, and you're the only submitter there. I'm not gonna go pray in front of them without the veil because they're all gonna go against me, and I'm not ready to confront the whole community, one versus all these people. I'm not gonna be able to in that time to face them. Even if I bring them all the proof, they're not also there to listen to that. There are times the people, they want to learn to listen, but this is not the time. So I will not even do it in front of them.
Yeah, but if the opportunity arises, you know, like let's say an opportunity arises, since even the angels treat every single individual as a potential submitter. How can we, obviously we can assume depending on the context whether it's the right time or not, but like how can we be absolutely sure that this person is, let's say you had no prior interactions with them, you can't necessarily be absolutely sure that they would not
God
let.
will guide those people. Khadir. I had people who actually I had ladies who came to me after that, and I said, we believe that what you're doing is the right thing, and they ask for more. So he will guide. You're gonna be just when they notice you, or when you say something about that, and they notice you, or find out somehow you're not doing what they're doing, then you're not praying the same way. He will guide those people. They will come to you and they will ask you for more. They're ready for that. They want to find out more.
Just want to make a comment on expanding on what Brother Du said, picking and choosing the battles, and also we are responsible for our lives, basically what we do, whether we choose the right thing or not, and we are encouraged really to start with closest to us. Every single day, we have room for those people that us, and we won't have time to go outside to the strange. So it's picking and choosing would be more like somewhere safe. So it's a balance of things. God doesn't want us to necessarily out there and put ourselves in the danger situation. Um, so it's if you're in a safe, you doesn't get into argument. Meaning, if it gets to that point, they're not willing to hear. Why waste time with the person like when you can spend that the closest people to you? So it's pick and choose. Basically, that's how I see it. Thank you.
I just wanted to say apologies earlier for some reason. Elham, I couldn't hear you when you were talking. I had to drop off and come back. My apologies.
No worries, I figured as much. God bless you. Are we in the open forum? Or are we still in the
Actually, well, let's do announcements. I don't know if anyone has any announcements that they want to bring up.